Okay, welcome back, Junior. We are here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. We ask that you like, subscribe, and comment below. We have the live chat going, so please feel free to jump in on that. We're going to be covering the East and West region of the round of 32, which is taking place tomorrow, Monday, March 22nd. Again, thank you for joining us for Offside and Out of Bounds. I'm Adam.
I'm Junior. Let's go.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Okay, welcome back, Junior. Before we jump into the breakdown of the East and West brackets, the round of 32, why don't you give us an update on these and our betting predictions that we did last week on the previews from each of these brackets?
Yeah, okay. So coming into yesterday's games, we were sitting at 9-16 for our ATS bets, 10-16 for our straight up, and 11-16 for the over-under. And yesterday, total up were 20-32 against the spread, 17-29 for straight up bets, and then 20-29 for our over-unders. Okay. And yesterday, we hit 2 of 4 upset specials with Ohio and Maryland. We lost on Missouri, which was a close one, and Georgetown, again, who got blown out. So we're sitting 6-12 for the tournament so far, so at 50% on that.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to be highlighting for tomorrow's games. There's obviously games on right now. We're going to be highlighting tomorrow's games, which is the East and West region. So some powerhouse teams. You know, this has been a tournament of upsets. I think maybe more than I can remember in past history.
It's been a lot.
Anything goes, I think, in this tournament. I don't think the ranking is necessarily driving all the results here in the seeding, but let's get us on the screen here with who we got up tomorrow. This is going to be a very, very big game. Gonzaga, the number 1 seed, versus Oklahoma, the 8th seed. Gonzaga torched Norfolk State. 98-55, and Oklahoma squeaked one out against Missouri 72-68. The line on this game is minus 14.5 for Gonzaga. I mean, clearly they're in the ability to hit over their average if possible. Do you see this happening against Oklahoma? Who do you have here?
Well, Oklahoma's game against Missouri, it was a gutsy win. I didn't like them in that game. OSU got out-rebounded. They did win the turnover battle. They shot 40% from the field. They were hitting their threes at almost 50%, but they only hit 7 of 15.
Yeah.
They're going to have to shoot a hell of a lot better from the floor if they're going to even compete. So, maybe hitting 20 of 40 threes, that might get them close, but I definitely don't see that happening. Now, it was a close game with Gonzaga early with Norfolk, but I think it was more of a case of Gonzaga playing with their food than anything else. Now, I said the cover was going to be 30 to 35 points. It ended at 33. They did just what they needed to do. It could have been 40 because they won by 43. They shot above 50 from the field, shot above 50 from distance. Basically, your prototypical Zaga win. They also almost out-rebounded Norfolk 2-1. But again,
36 rebounds, huge.
Yeah. So, but again, that's what a 1 seed should be doing to a 16. So there's not really a surprise there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised this spreads at where it is at 14.5. I would expect this to be a bit higher, maybe 18 to 20.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma has not shown me anything that is going to give me the jitters to start backing them after I didn't back them in the first round. So I'm going to take Gonzaga comfortably at a 14.5. If this goes up to 18, I'll probably still take it at 18.
Okay. Over under at 154.5. I mean, Gonzaga can score upwards of 95 plus points. Is this realistic? Do you see this changing quite a bit before the game? You think it'll go up a bit?
I think just because the total is high at 154, that a lot of guys are going to start betting the under. Sorry, a lot of people are going to start betting that under, which is probably going to bring that total down to maybe 151.
Okay.
I don't know if I can see Oklahoma with 70 to 75 points.
Yeah.
I can see, Gonzaga in that like 88 to 95 range. So that means that I need almost the same output from Oklahoma to get, comfortable in that over. So right now at 154, I'll take the under.
Okay, awesome. And you have Gonzaga winning and covering the spread and under. Okay, perfect. So that's the first game of the West breakdown here. Let's take a look and see who we have next here. Okay, so the Ohio Bobcats, the 13th seed going up against the Creighton Blue Jays. The 5th seed. Creighton just squeaked one by UCSB. I know Andy Katz had UCSB as the upset for that one. That was his first 12-5 upset there. They won by a point. And then on the other side of that, Ohio won by 4 points against Virginia. It's an upset there for Ohio. The point spread here in this game is -5.5 for the Creighton Blue Jays. What does this matchup look like?
Well, we can get one thing straight. We're better than Cats at picks so far.
Yes.
I'm in a bit of a tough spot here because I like Creighton, but I also like Ohio. I took both these teams to move on, but Creighton did not live up to my expectations. That win was far too close for my liking. Mm-hmm. They only went to the line 7 times, and they shot under 30% from 3 and under 45 from the floor. So not a typical game from them. Especially when you're playing up against UCSB, which was a 12 seed. Now, granted to them, great season they had, but they also got out rebounded too. So for me, Zagorowski, who's the man there, he had 17 points and 0 free throws. So that's a big concern for me. That's telling me that they are settling on that mid-range game, and they are not slashing. They are not going to the rack, which is a big reason why they're not getting any trips to the charity stripe. And at this time of year, you need scoring plays when the clock has stopped.
When they did get there, they only shot 57% as well.
Which is horrible. I mean, it's a fundamental shot that should be taught from people from the minute they start getting on the court, is how to properly shoot a free throw. Get the noise in there, but whatever you got to do, you got to do better than 50% from the stripe. Now, Ohio, my concern with the last game was that Virginia was basically a false 4 seed, too long of a layoff. I was right, but Ohio did do what they do, which is, score close to 80. And it wasn't one of those prototypical wins of theirs where they score a lot of points. They shot 42% from the field, and I think it was 35% from distance.
30%.
30%. But they were 7 for 23. And for Ohio to win, they normally need to get that 3-ball going. But they did out-rebound Virginia 38 to 29 in and around there. So I like that. I also like the fact that they were 13 of 14 from the stripe, which is, again, a huge thing. I like when teams are scoring the ball when the clock is stopped. Now, if Creighton doesn't clean up their game, and they need to, I think Ohio's going to pump them. So I'm torn on this. I'm really torn, but I'm going to take Ohio to cover the spread.
Okay, I didn't hear the horn. That's awesome, though.
Sorry.
I was anticipating. I was on the edge of my seat there waiting for it. Just a note while you're getting that going, Ohio scores the rebound of the ball extremely well in the game against Virginia. 32 defensive rebounds. Yep. So if they continue to pound the glass like that, there we go. There it is. If they rebound that well, I see them winning this game as well. But I think that's a big if, and I think this is going to be an interesting game. Again, I think a game that can be won by Ohio. But again, I think Creighton is going to probably put a bit better of a foot forward in this game, and we're going to see who we expect to see from that Blue Jay team.
I'm thinking so too. So that's why I still like them to move on. I have them moving on in my bracket. But
Will they cover the spread?
I think Ohio's going to cover the spread. I just don't think it's that I'm so torn between these two teams. I'm having a hard time trying to settle on either side of the fence. But I like Creighton to move on. I don't know if they're going to pull out another squeaker. I think Ohio's a better team than UCSB, and I think that Virginia might be similar to Creighton in ways. So that's another thing going for you, right? But I think if Creighton cleans it up, they're going to move through. It's going to be a close game, though.
Yeah, one other thing to point out here, again, we kind of touched on the free throws, but if this game gets down to kind of those final few possessions and Ohio ends up on the line, shooting 57% is not going to cut it for them in this game.
No.
Over under here at 147. Where do you see this game ending up?
I'm going to hit the under. I'm going to hit it hard.
Yeah, I don't see them getting these numbers up that much in this game. I think there's going to be a bit of a change in pace and a bit of a change in style here. But great. Okay, awesome. So we're going to lock that one in here. Let's move over to the next game. Okay, awesome. Kansas Jayhawks, the number 3 seed versus the USC Trojans. Okay, at the 6th seed. This should be a great game. USC beat Drake 72-56, so they hit him pretty hard. Not that we expected a lot from Drake anyways.
No.
And then Kansas 93-84 over Eastern Wash. Very high-scoring game. What do you think about these two matching up with minus 1.5 at USC? How do you feel about USC being the favorite in this game also?
We just saw this with who was it? Texas Tech and Arkansas.
A little bit of embarrassment there to Texas or to Arkansas, right?
Yeah, you had Arkansas at a 3 seed who was a +2 dog to the 6-seeded Texas Tech Raiders.
Is that game finished yet?
Yeah, 68-66. So they didn't. They covered the +2 and covered the -2 that they should have been favored by.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, USC shot well from the floor, 50%, and then over 30% from free.
Yep.
They're going to have to clean up the 53.3% from the charity stripe, though. If just
going
do
deep
that,
in this tournament, you have to be better.
You have to be hitting that. Yeah. I'd say anything above 75, 77, you're okay, you're manageable, but it's inexcusable to be hitting half of your free throw shots. I'm sorry. They're going to have to crash the glass a lot more too, and continue to distribute the ball. Well, they had 20 assists last game, which I really like. Mm-hmm. When you're looking at the assist to turnover ratio and your assists are high and your turnovers are low, that's always a good thing. I'm liking them here. I'd like them more if they were not a favorite, but again, I think that's going to flip from USC to Kansas. But Kansas was in a tough spot against Eastern Washington, and the Groves brothers are absolute beasts. The fact that they're both juniors, I really can't wait to see the kind of noise that team's going to make next year. But I think everyone took notice, and Eastern Washington had a strong first half. They had a lead. They had a lead into the second half, but then Kansas kind of grinded their way back into the game and took the move that they needed to. They took care of the ball. They didn't turn it over a lot. They were steady from the floor. Now, I liked Eastern Washington to take out Kansas because I wasn't really a big fan of Kansas at 3. But they did what they needed to do, so they got back a bit of the chalk from me that I lost for them in the last week or so.
Yeah.
But in this spot, gun to my head, I would have to take Kansas. But if this does flip over to Kansas, I'm probably going to jump on to USC. So I'll tease Kansas at the +1.5. But if it gets to the other side where they're favored, then I'm gonna go a bit heavier on USC.
And who's going to win this game? Who's going through to that Sweet 16, which happens next Saturday?
Saturday date next week. Give me USC.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is going to be an extremely, extremely close game. USC is going to have to tighten up on those free throws. You are not going to win basketball games, and you're not going to go far in this tournament and make those possessions count at the end of a ball game if you're not able to hit those free throws. So expect them to hopefully get that happening a little bit more. Over under here at 134.5. I mean, it's probably going to be in and around that range. What do you think?
I'm 134.5. I mean, modeling is suggesting this is going to be a 140 to 145 game. So, I mean, that's 5 to 10 point spread on top of that. So I'm comfortable taking the over.
Okay.
We'll lock it in.
All right. Awesome. One more game here in the West. Okay. So we got Iowa. Okay. At the number 2 seed, the Hawkeyes, versus the number 7 Oregon Ducks, who had a pass because of VCU not being able to play in that game due to health and regulation protocols. So that was a no contest. So we don't have, we don't know what Oregon's going to be looking like in this game against Iowa, not coming off of a previous game in the tournament. But Iowa did beat Grand Canyon 86-74, which is a pretty high scoring total for points per game. We got -5 here for Iowa. What do you think about this matchup?
My issue is that Iowa and the team that they are, they should not have won by such a little spread. Okay, they handled their business. Garza went off from all over the floor. He was all over the place. He's looking very strong right now, which is what Iowa needs. Now, I was worried about those 2 Titans that GCU had in the middle, but he definitely showed me that he can handle himself and handle the big trees in front.
Yeah,
they did shoot above 50% from the field, which I like, and 45% from 3, which is great. GCU did cover the spread, which I thought they would, and Oregon is fresh. And they do have 2 6'11" centers that Garza is going to have to deal with in Dante and Kepning. But the Ducks,
they did score 86 points, and they're averaging 83 points.
They gave up a lot.
Them to be a little bit more than that, or you just think they should have been better defensively sound?
Defensively speaking,
Okay.
GCU should not have had that many points on them. But then when you look at the Oregon side, they were pushed through, like you said, because of the stuff that was going on with VCU. But the Ducks are a lanky team. They've got lots of length. They average over 7 steals and 3 blocks a game. But my concern is just like the concern I had with UConn, the concern I had with Kansas, the concern I have with Virginia is the rest. Iowa's played a game. They're buzzing now. Oregon has not played since March 12th in the conference championships.
That seemed like a lifetime.
And they lost to Oregon State by 11. But,
yeah.
I mean, the rest of the the Pac-12 lost to Oregon State. So, I understand. But, there's 2 sides of the coin. It's the turnaround time in between games is very quick. So it shouldn't matter that much. But the fact that they haven't played in, 2 weeks is a bit of a concern for me, especially when they don't know who they're planning for. If you knew who your opponent was going to be on said date, then you could plan a little more. But they haven't been able to. They've been planning for VCU, not Iowa. And the attack plan against the VCU team is very different than an attack plan against Iowa.
It's also nice coming off a win, right?
Yeah, you've got that mojo going. Some momentum behind you.
Yeah.
So at -5, just because of that rest, I like Iowa here.
Okay. Yeah, and then we have the over-under here at 147. How do you think this game's going to shape up here?
Well, Oregon's going to be, GCU scored a ton of points on Iowa. I think Oregon's a better team than GCU is, you'd expect. So, I can see this being a high-scoring game, low 80s each team, low 80s, high 70s. So I think this has a chance to get over. If this goes up anymore, I'll definitely pound the under. But at 147, I think going over it's got good potential to hit.
Yeah, you mentioned Garza as well, 34 points, 6 rebounds and assist, huge. So let's see what that's going to look like for him. I think there's going to be a lot of production there. I'm going to move over to the East region here. We just want to pause for a moment and remind everybody, please like, comment, subscribe. Do we have any updates, live updates there, Junior?
Yeah. 18 seconds left in the second. Houston has taken a 1-point lead over Rutgers.
Oh,
8:17 left in the second. Oral Roberts has closed the gap with Florida to 5 points.
Okay.
And in the first half, North Texas is up 21-20 over Villanova.
I mean, I really want to see Rutgers go through and face Syracuse, which is one of our upset picks as well. So that would be a great battle. So keep us posted on that after we do this Michigan LSU review here.
For sure.
Okay, so Michigan beat Texas Southern 82-66. They move on as the number 1 seed to face the number 8 seeded LSU, who beat kind of a bit of a fan favorite, I think, for us. I believe you had LSU going through, but the Bonnies, they beat the Bonnies 76-61. It was a pretty convincing win. Bonnies were just kind of a fun team to watch, I think, and that's why we enjoy them. But Michigan 1 and LSU 8, -5 for the Wolverines here on the spread. How's this game going to shape up here?
This is going to be an interesting game. I am willing to go out on an island right now by myself and say that this might be the game to watch all day. If you can choose one, choose this one. Now, I wasn't high on LSU. I made fun of Shaq for having him going through to the Final Four like he does every year. Yeah. I don't know why he does it, but he does it. But they beat one of the public's heaviest underdog picks. They shot the ball poorly at 40%, but they crashed the boards and almost had 50 rebounds. They ended up with 49 rebounds that game.
They were all over the glass.
14 offensive. Little to no turnovers. Their best player went off for 27. They're going to need a similar rebounding effort here, and they're going to have to shoot the ball better here to keep pace with Michigan. The thing that I was concerned about with Michigan is, number one, they didn't cover. And then Weathers, who's got some length as a point guard and some very short shorts, he was scoring at ease. He was getting inside. His length was letting him score. They shot under 50% from the field. And I felt that if Texas Southern had scored more from 3, and I think they had 1, the score may have been a little bit different and a lot closer. But I'll say Texas Southern is a sneaky team, and I'm not sure how Howard had them planned up or the team prepared to play them. Probably not as good as they should have been, but I think maybe he was planning for the LSU team. Well, he got it, and I hope that this team comes out a little bit more prepared.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got your best player, Hunter Dickinson, fouling out of that game.
Yeah, not good.
And only ended up with 16-2. When you're getting into these later rounds, your best players need to be your best players. Sometimes when you look at Colorado with Samaki Walker's kid came out of nowhere and kind of just elevated their game. That's great. It's good to have that. But those guys, those 4A recruits, those triple diamond recruits, these are the guys that need to be leading your team. And I think Hunter Dickinson kind of let them down a little bit by fouling out. Again, there were some touchy fouls, some that probably shouldn't have been called. But when you've got 4 fouls, you need to be aware of what's going on. You've got to be aware of who's around you. But 5.5, I think, is a bit of an insult to Michigan. I think it's got more to do with the fact that LSU pounded the Bonnies. So at 5.5, I'm going to be settling on Michigan.
And who's going to win this game, though?
Michigan.
Okay. Yeah, I like Michigan too in this game. In a league program there. Over/under showing at 145.5. I think that might have actually changed recently. Is it 149.5?
Yeah, it's went up to 149.
Okay. So 149. Obviously, these teams have the ability to score. What are you looking at here? Are you likely going to hit the under on this game?
Again, this is a pushing right to that my comfort level, right at like 149, 150. Like it's right there. But I think that this is going to be a pretty free-flowing game. If both teams are hitting their shots and LSU's rebounding the way they are to create those second chance points, I think that it's going to be a high-scoring game. Just don't know if it's going to be – you know what? I'll settle on the over.
LSU 11 assists to turnover ratio 9, so hopefully that's going to change a little bit. Both teams score very, very well from the free throw line at just over 80% apiece. This is going to be an interesting game, and I think you're right. I think this might be the game to watch, and I think it might end up, coming down to it kind of in the last 3, 4, 5 minutes of this game.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, moving on in the East. Okay, so we got Colorado, who beat Georgetown. I believe we had them as an upset, Georgetown.
Unfortunately, we did.
Okay, so 96-73, so they hammered them pretty good. And Florida State beat UNC Greensboro 64-54. So they match up at the 5 and the 4 seed here. What do you like about these teams?
Quick update. Houston ends up winning 63-60. Yeah.
Okay, that's a tough one for us to. I believe that covered the spread, though, did it not?
Yeah, they were plus 10.5. So we had Rutgers covering the spread, but Houston moving on. So we were bang on that.
All right,
we'll talk about that another day.
Yes.
Colorado, the Buffs absolutely destroyed the Hoyas and almost had Ewing in tears. Probably making
Wouldn't
him
be
wish.
the first time.
Yeah, probably making him wish that he still had McClung. But now I'll say this with an impartial eye because I was very impartial in that game. The officiating was very suspect. There were a lot of ticky-tack fouls that were called on the Hoyas, and Colorado was basically allowed to do whatever the hell they wanted to. So outside of that, favorite whistle, blah, 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 blah. They still had about 10 to 15 more trips to the foul line. But what is going to destroy you in tournament time is when a team is shooting 64% from three.
And 60 from the field.
And 60 from the field. They had a better shooting percentage from three than they did from the floor. So, and then you had Walker coming out of nowhere, kids averaging, under 10 a game and just blows up for 24. It was a great team win for them. Definitely a statement game because I think everybody had Georgetown and no one was putting anything on the line with Colorado. And I think they had that approach was like, the nation don't like us, so let's show them who we are. And they did. And I've taken notice.
27 assists for Colorado in that game to the 12 turnovers as well.
Exactly.
So that's absolutely huge. They're moving the ball around quite nicely.
That's like 2.5 assists for every turnover, which you like. As a coach, as an analytics guy, you like to see numbers like that. I'd like the Noles a lot if they were playing Georgetown. I think they'd be in a good spot. They limited UNCG, who was another one of the public's darling upsets in the first round. Limited them to 30% from the field and 25% from distance. Now, State's going to have to crash the offensive boards a hell of a lot more because they only had 5 against UNCG, which was a smaller team, and they gave up 11 against them. Now, that's going to have to change because the Buffs grabbed boards, and they also shot 0% from three, missing all 9 that they took.
Yeah, that's unacceptable.
Which tells me the coaches were smart enough to say, guys, lay off. Let's hammer it inside. And they did, and they still won.
Yep.
But they're going to have to pound the rock. They're going to have to get that shot from distance going, and they're going to have to crash the boards like crazy. And they're going to do everything they have to do to disrupt Colorado's flow, because when they flow, and it's all downhill. But the spread in this game is
-1 Florida State.
1.5 Florida State.
Okay, 1.5.
I'm liking Colorado in this spot. To cover and to win.
And to win, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to argue if they're going to come out and put up that same, effort against Georgetown and score upwards of 90 or 80 plus points, which is well above their points per game average, and shooting 64% from three and 60 from the field, 85% from free throw as well. These guys are poised to do very well if they continue putting up games like this. So let's see. I think this is going to be another great game to watch. 139 is the over-under. And just want to mention here, Walker had 24 points and Schwartz had 18 points. So
yeah. Wow, 139. I can see a very similar game to the last one in terms of scoring for Colorado. But I think with Florida State averaging almost 80 a game, And they tend to get those overs a lot. So they're 13-6-2 this year on the over.
Yeah.
So I think I'm comfortable at 139 taking that over.
Yeah, I would agree here. I mean, their regular average is going to be above that, so I see that happening for them as well. This should be another great game, I think, to watch here. So let's move on here in the East. Okay, so this was quite the game. This was the late last night game. I mean, it wasn't high scoring, it wasn't high powered, but they did beat Texas 53-52. Abilene Christian, the number 14 over the 3 seed, and then you had UCLA beating BYU 73-62. Another upset. An 11-14 matchup in the second round. I mean, I don't think a lot of people probably had this one on the bracket. You got -4.5 for UCLA. I liked watching UCLA yesterday. I think there's a lot going for them, and I don't think maybe they're seeded, or maybe they could have been seeded. And I think that legacy is looking good for them at -4.5. What's your take on this game?
Number one, starting with Abilene Christian, I'm not certain how a team that shoots 30% from the field on 67 shots and goes 3 for 18 from distance wins a first round game against a higher seed.
16% from 3, eh?
Yeah. Texas shot 45% from the floor. Again, that's a lot lower than they normally would. And they shot 35% from 3. So tell me how a team that's shooting half the percentage wins that game.
Turned the ball over more than they had assists. 11 turnovers, 9 assists in that game.
Yeah, and Texas turned the ball over 23 times.
That's
so we said it yesterday. We'll say it again today. If you turn the ball over, you're going to lose. And they did. Now, what I do like about the tournament this year is that these smaller teams are coming in and they are not afraid of these big programs. They are coming in with nothing but their pride, and they're leaving it all on the floor. And, the thing is UCLA takes care of the ball, but so did Texas.
Mm-hmm.
But that's Abilene basketball. Low-scoring game of the first round, I might add, too, with 105 total points. Looking at UCLA, BYU, I had them going quite far. Little surprised. I went to bed last night and took a look at some of the picks, and I was feeling very confident. Woke up, and it's like all hell broke loose last night, and everything just went wrong. But BYU went 3 for 17 from distance. They shot 50% from the line, which again is not a good thing. And they didn't distribute the ball very well and turned it over quite a bit. And when you do that, you're not going to win. UCLA held up to 27 points in the first half, which is very low for BYU. And Jazang went off for 27. So their best player was their best player.
Yeah.
Now, UCLA had BYU chasing them all night long. And they also shot close to 50% from the floor and 42% from distance. They were just on last night, and the score reflected just that. UCLA was 4th in the Pac-12. I think everyone kind of written them off after that loss, and then having to go into the play-in game.
Yeah.
But they've beat Michigan State now, and we saw what they did to BYU last night. And I'm just wondering, are they going to be able to take out a 14 seed team from Texas? I think they're going to. I'm comfortable in saying that I'm going to lock in UCLA in this game to cover and to win and to move on to the Sweet 16.
Will they cover that -4.5 spread?
Yes, they will.
Okay, and the over-under at 133?
I'm with how Abilene Christian plays, I think it's going to be an under.
Okay. One note just here for Abilene Christian, 83% from the line. So we did mention 56% for UCLA. They got to step that up. If they end up on the line, they're going to have to convert there because it's just not going to fly. And if they go past and make it to the next round, it's going to be important for them.
And Abilene Christian with 18 offensive rebounds last night as well.
It's really surprising how Texas played yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else to say, but there was a lot of heartbreak there for a lot of people.
I think that the final nail in the coffin of all the correct brackets. I think that was it.
Yeah. And then here we go, moving on. So we got Maryland versus Roll Tide, Alabama.
Quick update, we've got Florida 76, Oral Roberts 73, with 3:19 left in the second.
Ooh, I like that.
So Oral Roberts is closing that gap.
Awesome. So if we're just looking at this matchup here, this is the last matchup happening here. So Maryland upset UConn 63-54, and Alabama 68-55 over Iona. These two teams matching up in the second round here, 10-2 seed, -6 Alabama. What do you think this game's going to show us about these two teams here?
Well, the one thing it's going to show us is who's going to the Sweet 16. Now, with Maryland, I didn't like UConn all year. The layoff I didn't like as well. But no one twisted my arm to take Maryland over UConn. But after I saw Maryland during Champ Week with that game in Michigan and how chippy it got and how much fight they had in them, and the fact that they're not going to back down in the eye at adversity, they limited UConn to 32% from the field. They got out-rebounded, so that's going to need to change if they're going to have a chance here. They shot 50% from three, and that helped quite a bit.
Yep.
Because this team does like to shoot three, so if they're going to start getting high percentages on that, then you got to look out. Ayala, who's their best player, showed out with 23 points, out-dueling Boo Knight. And I really like the game from Maryland. And they're now staring adversity in the face with this Alabama team.
Yep.
There were actually people taking Iona over Alabama because of their coach. And I thought that was an absolute joke. Okay, everyone knows who their coach is, but execution is going to win games. And the execution was not there from Iona. Bama limited to 30% from the field. Iona loves threes. They hit 5, and they took 23.
Mm-hmm.
Bama hit 5 and took 16. Bama was very responsible. Their switches, their sets, and Iona only ended up on the line 5 times. So that's absolutely phenomenal because that tells you that they're controlling the pace of that game, and it played exactly how they wanted it to. Now, Bama out-rebounded Iona 42-26, and they also had 13 offensive boards. Now, Bama usually likes the games kind of in those high 70s to 80s. As I said before, they're undefeated when they score 80 and up. And with Maryland, I like the scorer to get upwards of that. So, again, this is an upset team that I've taken, and I like them. And then it's Bama. But at 5.5, I'm going to have to go with Bama in this one.
So Bama to cover and win?
Yeah.
Okay. Over-under on this game is 138. You mentioned kind of these guys will probably be up in the higher 70s, maybe into the 80s.
Yeah, Maryland usually is an under 70 average team, but I think they've kind of got that next leg that they've been looking for. So I definitely see them getting above 70. And if this is going to be a Bama win, I'd like them to hit 80 because then it's almost a lock. So I'll take that over.
Yeah, if Maryland's able to go and shoot 50% from the field and from 3 and 71% from the line, I definitely think we can cover the one on this and go over. That's awesome. That covers us off for the East and West. Don't have any more of those, so that's going to be awesome. So that's all taking place tomorrow, Monday, March 22nd. Okay, so please watch those games. We will be back, I believe, next Friday to cover all 8 games that will be happening on Saturday, the 26th, for the Sweet 16. And then we'll be back, I believe, the Sunday to cover off the Elite 8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. That's going to be great. And then
we've also got NBA trade deadline in there as well, I think,
on
the Thursday.
That's right. So we're going to review the trades that happened after the deadline's complete this Thursday coming up, 9 p.m. So, reach out, make sure that you're watching us live, subscribe, turn that bell on for notifications. 9 o'clock seems to be our sweet spot. Any final thoughts on tomorrow's games, Junior?
I'm liking the way the tournament's being played so far. I'm liking the fact that some of these small teams, these mid-major teams are coming to play, and they're making it entertaining. You know, the one thing I used to always hate was, you know, back in the day when I was in high school and March break, what did you do? I sat around and I watched March Madness all day long. And to see some of these teams, they get blown out by 50 or 60 points, you know, those days are gone. I think the gap in terms of talent wise and you know, intelligence of these coaches and the plans they're setting up, it's a lot closer than it's ever been. And I've just been really enjoying things. And, you know, I'm liking to see Loyola and the run that they're on. Oh. And, you know, some of these high seeds like Ohio who've been playing, you know, out of their mind. And then we've got a couple more tonight with North Texas and Oregon State. So Oral Roberts, as I said, that just took the lead with 2:46 left in the second half. So it's been entertaining, and you know, it's must-watch TV. So I've definitely been enjoying that, and I'm looking forward to that next step and that next stage in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I agree. I think March Madness is back. Right. As you mentioned, the playing field has gotten a lot more even. A lot of great basketball programs coming out of different places that maybe you wouldn't have expected, you know, going back to high school and stuff like that. You know, there's the teams that you knew and the teams that you didn't know. But everybody's trying to make a name for themselves. And the basketball has been fun and great to watch, and a lot of good games coming up tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I think we should sign off because I definitely want to see the end of this Oral Roberts game.
Yeah.
So for everybody here at Offside and Out of Bounds and Offside Bets, I'm Adam.
I'm Junior.
See you.